transgresses against our natural rights, the right to kill violence, we always possess the right to defend ourselves with whatever amount of transgression is required to stop the aggression to kill violence. We always possess the right to defend ourselves with whatever amount of transgression is required to stop the aggression to kill violence. We always possess the right to defend ourselves with whatever amount of transgression is required to stop the aggression.
All right, super strange audio issue there. Hey guys, how's it going? Today's guest saw a need. He saw an inequality. Super strange audio issue there. Hey guys, how's it going? Today's guest, 10 out of 10, saw a need. Hang on one sec. He saw an inequality. Super strange. All right, we had some new software going that I think is causing some loopback issues here. All right, so let's just get this started. Another brilliant show opening brought to you by Patrick Smith. Wow. Okay, so today's guest is Austin Jones, creator of the Dagny Dagger, and the gun. The gun to me is the ultimate equalizer. But oh wait. When the government is able to create defenses that knock that out of alignment and mess with the balance of firearms and mess with the equality producing capabilities of the firearm through up-armoring themselves and militarizing the police as they've done, that's kind of a problem. Well, this guy has been working very hard for over a year, maybe almost 2 years now, to come up with a solution. Let's get into it.
From Dallas, Texas, this is Anarchast.
Good to see you guys in the comments. You guys are lively today. So before I introduce our special guest today, we traveled out to Arizona, Flagstaff, Arizona, about a month ago now, and we were there for a very, very special occasion. We got to be there when the Dagny Dagger, which is this armor-penetrating 9mm pistol round, was successfully tested against 3A body armor. And, you know, I'm not going to tell the whole story now. What I will do, though, is show you a 3-minute or so teaser of the sort of full-length documentary of the day that's available over on Disenthrall. So what you're about to see is the short teaser. And if you want the whole video, if you want the whole story from the day, and it was a crazy, happy, triumphant day where we did ballistics gel testing. I got to fire it, all kinds of cool stuff. It's like a 40-minute video. There's a link in the description. You can go watch that over on Disenthrall. Let me go ahead and play you the teaser now. I have got one hell of a treat for you today, guys. We are at a range in Arizona, Flagstaff, where we're about to do a full test run with body armor of the Dagny Dagger. Now, for those of you that have been following Disenthrall for, I don't know, probably about a year and a half now, you would have remembered my interview with the creator of the Dagny Dagger. This is going to be an open-sourced, do-it-yourself, do-at-homeable, armor-piercing handgun round. And today we're here to give it a test run on some actual 3A body armor.
When does one possess the right to kill those who are holding them in a state of duress? When when someone transgresses against our natural law rights through violence, we always possess the right to defend ourselves with whatever amount of force is required to stop the aggression, including deadly
I'm swinging
force.
the sword of justice at these corrupted souls amongst us. Blood-sucking political puppets in ignorant public. I had enough of the lies and even they try to justify.
The Dagny dagger that you're holding, the entire thing weighs like 100 grains, which is just about the weight of the lightest lead bullet for 9mm you can currently buy on the market. And that's the entire cartridge. When this goes to market, it will be the lightest 9mm cartridge on the market.
There once was technology called 3A body armor. There was once Windows 3.1.
Check out the gunshot as well. We'll go ahead and just get a rough view.
Both are now obsolete.
All right, and action.
Anywhere the Dagny dagger may be present, level 3A soft body armor is just dead weight.
Keep on pushing through the pain. Keep on grinding till we die. And no mercy in this life. There's nowhere left to run away. No, there's nowhere left to run away. Run away, run away, run
So without further ado, welcome to the show. Austin, how are you, Austin?
I'm all right. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. This is
Great.
the one audio issue we're not having today.
Hey man, everybody's got it. Everybody's got it. So.
It's going to be one of those days, it looks like. How's it going, man? How have you been? It's been like a month and a half since I've been out there? About a month? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
In the meantime, you spoke at a conference to sort of make the announcement. You've had this...
the Guns and Bitcoin conference. It's actually something that might interest some of your audience. It was held in Austin, Texas. We had speakers on the subversive nature of guns, and the subversive nature of Bitcoin, and how those are quote unquote freedom tech. So that was a real fun time. And then, we've been doing a lot to get ready for this video release. We've revamped our website. And that's it. We've been getting ready for this, and now it's here, and I want to talk about it.
I'm excited. I've been following this project for a year and a half since I think you first kicked it off with it was a Kickstarter or something like that, a GoFundMe. I forgot what the campaign was.
Yeah, it's gundynamics.com. It's crowdfunding specifically for the firearms industry. Because of course you get kicked off of Kickstarter and Indiegogo if you try to do something related to firearms there. So we did that, and I got it. We take Bitcoin too, so I don't want people to think we just want that fiat.
Right. Okay, so the official first question that I have to ask you, because this is your first time on Anarchast, is, sir, how did you become an anarchist?
Well, I'm an American. I came from a conservative American household. And of course, conservatives, whether they functionally believe it or not, they sort of hold up as almost godlike figures, the founders of this nation, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and those. So That's the kind of upbringing I had also. Traditional small government values, I suppose. And then, of course, through high school, I became kind of more coherent in those values, started questioning, I don't think the libertarianish values of the American founders are well represented by conservative values today. And I started to get, a little bit more libertarian. Of course, I had the influence of the Ron Paul wake-up moment, as many in my generation did. And by the time I was in college, I was pretty staunchly opposed to the whole, Democrat-Republican circus, kind of hanging out more in the Libertarian Party spaces. And as I just evolved in kind of the coherency of the ideals of liberty, true liberalism, and individualism, I began to reject more and more of the libertarian, moderation. Began to get more and more radical towards anti-state means. And then towards the end of my university stay, I thought, well, everything can be privatized, of course, all the functions of government, but there's one thing. We must maintain, some system of authority to grant intellectual property so that people can own their creations and guarantee that people can make a living on what they create. And then right out of the gate of university, I started my first company with a buddy of mine. And as you do with tech startups, we wrote a patent for that. In fact, I personally wrote a great deal of the text of that patent. And that whole process of dealing with the patent in the patent office taught me that that's completely arbitrary. It's all ridiculous. It is, disfavorable for utility. It's disfavorable for rationality, completely ridiculous, and it needs to be just scrapped. So that's the moment that the last thread was broken, and I decided that the state ain't good for nothing.
So you come from an engineering background. Much
Yes.
like myself, I was a software engineer coming up, and I was also a photographer for a long time, and so a lot of everything I did was wrapped up in intellectual property, and so that was a hang up for me as well until I sort of until it finally clicked, and I understood that it's property created by fiat, by government guns.
Yes,
Was there any sort of one person or book or something that kind of pushed you over the edge past that?
Not really. I guess I really am. Even to this day, I am very inspired, and I admire very much the American founders, and I draw a lot of inspiration for how they made they took an unprecedented step in the creation of liberalism in their time, and how, of course, that's not the end. Like, do we think that that's the best world there is? No, of course not. So, I'm inspired by their conviction in building on the step that they took to take another step farther and to take liberalism as far as it can go, which is, of course, to dispense with the state as a whole.
All right. So before, I'm going to ask you to tell sort of the whole story of the development, and starting with how you had the idea here in a second. But before I do, I want to let the audience know that after we're done kind of talking through the story, we're going to have a question period. So if you have questions in the comments, put question in all caps, and then your short question after that, so I can see it go by, and I'll grab it and put it on my list to talk about after we go through a story. So that's for the audience. Now, Austin, so you're sort of like a material scientist, it seems like, before, like a material engineer before you got into ballistics, or were you into ballistics before you had this idea?
It's hard to draw the line. I am first and foremost an engineer. I mean, I'm the head of this company. I think a lot of people in this position would say, oh, yes, I'm the president of Atlas Arms. But I know I place my first title as chief engineer. I'm a born engineer. I'm a creator first and foremost, I feel. I'm sorry. Can you? It's been a long day for me. Can you repeat the question?
I know you've probably been talking to a lot of people about this stuff now that you finally sort of had the big breakthrough. So I was just kind of wanted to get an idea of where you started from an engineering perspective, and then
Yes, I'm sorry.
And then
Right.
what sparked the idea for the Dagny Dagger?
Right. Yeah. So sorry about that. So what I mean to say is, like, to be a good engineer, I think if you're like to really break the bounds and do something out of the envelope, I think first and foremost, you have to be just like very elastic. And I wouldn't characterize myself, as any specific type. I wouldn't say I'm a materials engineer. My formal education is just in aerospace in general. But of course, like through different projects I've done, I've learned more and more about materials. Learned about elastomers, polymers for a different project. I've had to learn metallurgy for different stuff. So yeah, at this point, I'm very well versed in materials. But honestly, my first company, we made electronic smart body armor for combat sports. So specifically Taekwondo. We made a vest that people wrap around their body that protects them in the course of the combat, but then also it can tell how hard you're hit, and it scores a Taekwondo match like a video game, and you've got life bars on your chest that decrease with how hard you're hit, right? So that was my first company. Yeah, and interestingly, the company's name is 2020 Armor. And technically, it's a body armor of sorts, though for kicks and punches rather than ballistic protection. And then after that, I was in the private space industry, where I worked on micrometeor shielding for soft body spacecraft. So essentially, it's like a inflatable space station pod, or like a module that gets attached to a space station, and it inflates so that the crew of the space station have more space inside the capsule than what actually fits on the rocket to put it into orbit. Well, you have to protect that from micrometeoroids and orbital debris that are flying around in orbit at, like, I think it's 6 to 12 kilometers per second, which is much faster than any gun on Earth has ever shot anything. And because it's inflatable, this has to be done very flexible. It's a textile based. So from those two experiences, I already have like quite a background in, the materials and the dynamics of ballistic protection, or at least, body armor, that whole world. And I guess you could say I'm somewhat of a turncoat, that I stopped working for Team Armor and started working for Team Penetrator. So
Right on. Okay, so how did you have the idea? Like, where did this come from?
So, oh boy, the backstory of this is kind of long. The question is how far back I want to go, but I think to hit it quickly, back in college, to define the state is defined by, of course, its monopoly on violence. So I think that the tools of violence are probably a good way to start to attack the state, to diminish it in some manner. And I was always kind of interested, just technically, also as an engineer, in firearms technology. So I wanted to make this homemade gunpowder factory, and I decided, that's too dangerous, and I kind of dropped the idea. I had this idea when I was working for Bigelow Aerospace, that company, to make like a home brew, like a homemade propellant, like a replacement for gunpowder that people can make in their house. And I needed, this is the most incredible thing. This would advance firearms technology wonderfully. It would really open up access to people at home. But I knew I would need a lot of resources to do it. And, I knocked on some doors. The big engineer over at Defense Distributed was really interested in working with me. But of course, the famous gatekeeper of that organization was not. And he challenged me to prove that it was worth working on. So I was like, okay, well, that ain't going to happen. And we got to find another way to build a platform build the resources and the reputation to develop this interesting technology. So I worked with a buddy of mine named Mike, who's a gunsmith, makes a lot of DIY weaponry, actually. And we came up with a lot of really amazing ideas and firearms technology concepts that are like advance firearms into the future from this very stagnant point that they've been in for the last 70 years or whatever. And among all of those ideas that I and we came up with to kind of get this operation going was the Dagny Dagger. We thought that this was kind of the cheapest, most straightforward thing that we could do, that we had the highest confidence that it could be done. And so that's where we started. So I know that's a long way to come to this point. But the Dagger in itself, even though it's a stepping stone to more exciting things, I think that, we wouldn't be working on this if we didn't think that it gave individuals more capability in personal firepower. And I think it does. It places more capability in the hands of the individual and allows them better access and more independence from the commercial and kind of government overseen industry. So there you go.
So I want to nerd out for a minute, and for the people that aren't ballistics experts, can you tell us sort of the state of modern armor-piercing ammunition, what it takes for something to be armor-piercing, and then how are those things currently regulated? Yeah,
so I guess loosely you can think in terms of what's good for armor penetration. You need something. You need the bullet to move very fast. You need high velocity. Next, you need a very hard material to penetrate, because you want the armor to deform. On impact, something's going to give, and you want the armor to give rather than the bullet. So like a lead bullet, that's no good because lead is very soft. And then the third thing is you want a good shape. You don't want a hollow point. You don't, again, want a shape that makes it fragile. You want something that'll stay together, maybe something sharp. That helps, having a sharp penetrator. But a shape that will just wedge itself into the armor rather than the armor destroying the projectile. So that's essentially what it is. Now,
so you need something hard and pointed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hard, pointed, and fast. That's a good way.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So generally that's accomplished traditionally with a steel core. So you have a typical lead bullet like normal, but inside of that lead there's a steel stud. That'd be the traditional way to make something armor piercing, because steel is lighter, much lighter than lead. So you end up with a lighter bullet that goes faster. Then the steel is very hard, and you can harden it even more. You can make steel very hard. And then the last thing, the shape, that steel stud in there is usually pointed to some degree. And there are various ways you could do it. The military uses tungsten a lot. Tungsten is also very hard. It's also dense, which helps penetration. But in 1985, as well as banning machine guns in the United States, the Reagan administration thought it'd be a great idea to criminalize the manufacture and import of what it called armor-piercing ammunition, which was defined as a projectile or projectile core that was composed entirely of brass, bronze, tungsten alloys, steel, iron, and depleted uranium. Okay, so that's all the things that are typically used to promote armor penetration, and they banned them all in the 80s.
So something as simple as steel is all that's really necessary for the core. So it's nothing. There's nothing magical or rare about the materials needed to make armor penetrating rounds. It's just that they've been just banned by fiat by the federal government. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, and you can make those now if you have really top quality machinery. If you can turn out something if you want to go into the land of the illegal where the elites might hurt you because you dare to possess something, it is fairly simple. But we can't use that. So this gets into then, well, what are we doing? And how does our bullet penetrate armor? Because we're using somewhat of an exotic alloy, something that is not included in that list of banned materials. But not only that, but we've designed a bullet that accomplishes all those faster. Its shape is superior. Its speed is superior. The material, again, it's an exotic material that gets around that regulation, circumvents it, while still providing the properties that you'd want to see there. So, I don't want to just say it's only because we're just substituting steel for this new material. That's some of it, and that's what keeps it legal, so that the feds don't show up and hurt you. But it is also a new design that is itself superior, even if you were to use one of the more traditional materials like tungsten or steel.
So if all else was held constant and the same, would your material be better than steel?
For some types of armor, I believe so, but not for the most common types, like not for steel. There are some plastic body armors that actually do quite well. It'd probably be better for that, but worse for steel. So it just kind of depends. But it's pretty close to on par. I will say that the material we're using, though it's not a steel, it is harder and stronger than the steel that body armor is made of.
Bezlichny in the comments makes a very good point that it was the Republican conservative administration that banned this stuff for that will have you in a cage today if you defend yourself with them.
Funny about that, yeah. And we see that with Trump too. Trump's administration has seen more firearms regulation than the Obama administration. So
yeah. So you do have a very unique design. It looks very sort of hollow pointy. Maybe if somebody can send me a photo of it. I don't know if you have one handy or have somebody near you that you can have maybe message me a photo. I should have asked for that. I could have pulled it up.
I don't know if I have screen share ability.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So
we'll get one to you.
So you have superior velocity over pistol rounds. You have a really cool material that you've made it out of, but you also have a really cool. It almost looks like a hollow point design where you can actually see. Yeah. So, but you said traditional armor-piercing rounds, the core is usually fully encased in lead. Is that true? And then sort of comes out on impact. Okay. Yours is like the penetrator is visible and surrounded by, I think, what was it, like a polycarbonate sort of housing. What did you call it?
Yeah, it's a polymer jacket. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, we have some indecent exposure going on in our core.
It's not really a jacket though, because a jacket usually completely covers whatever the core is, and I think
sometimes.
Oh, really?
I mean, you can have a jacket that's on like a soft point where like the lead is exposed at the tip. But we call it, so like lots of people would call this like a sabo. We refer to it as a jacket though, because it is bonded to the it is bonded to the core, and it maintains that bond until terminal impact with the target.
Okay, so it helps it go down the barrel. It helps it fly through the air. Does it fly through the air pretty straight because of the jacket? Or
I don't think the jacket helps exactly the aerodynamics, but the jacket does. Like you can have this like really hard material in your barrel because it'll just rip up the gun. So we need this polymer jacket around it. But the design of our bullet, we call it APHP, armor penetrating hollow point. So you will notice that there is both the penetrator and a hollow there. So when you shoot armor, that penetrator goes straight on through. The jacket just kind of wads up, it mushrooms, and it's just completely stripped off of that penetrator, and the penetrator goes to the armor. When you shoot a target that's not armored, like ballistics gel or an animal that you're hunting, or God forbid, some unarmored assailant, that jacket strips off of there, and it mushrooms to become a hollow point. And I think Patrick might be looking to show you. Yeah, that you get both effects. In traditional armor-piercing ammunition, it penetrates very well, but you don't get a lot of wounding capability. But with this, if you shoot a soft target, it's incredibly devastating, far more than existing ammunition on the market. But if you hit an armored target, then it still does its job penetrating armor.
Okay, and I think when I was there, you called it by a much more useful name. That looks like a foreskin. Let's just be clear here.
We call that rim. We call the rim of the hollow point around the core. We call it a foreskin. Yes,
So
Patrick has a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. Why does it need to stay attached to the core until it hits the target? Why wouldn't it be more like a sabot that, once the core leaves the barrel, it's kind of, you don't need it anymore?
Yeah, so a sabot that comes with its own problems as far as reliability and accuracy goes. Especially with a pistol bullet, they're really kind of like a rifle bullet is longer and skinnier. With a pistol bullet, it's really hard to do a sabot reliably. So you'll get stuff like when the sabot strips off, it won't do it completely symmetrically, and it'll shove the bullet off to one side. Or, the sabot will get stuck in the barrel or something, and it'll jam up the gun. So it's a lot more reliable, first of all. And then second, it is that jacket that is so devastating in an unarmored target. So if that came off, then it wouldn't have that multi-role configuration that we're so proud of.
Yeah, and if you watch the Disenthrall full-length sort of documentary of the day, the end of the video is us doing ballistics gel penetration tests side by side with a federal hydroshock. So he shoots the federal hydroshock into the gel first, makes a tiny little wound channel pathetic, and then he fires the Dagny Dagger into the gel, and we have slow motion footage of it. And how the gel brick is what, 9 inches wide? What's the 8 inches wide?
It's 6. It's 6.
6 inches.
It's 6 inches by 6 inches. And yeah, from that, like comparing the size of the temporary, what did I say? Like the temporary wound cavity, the stretch on it, it's 5 inches. So
it's a massive gap that would be inside the person.
It is ridiculous.
And that's from the foreskin. Yes.
Yes, it is, essentially.
All right. Okay, and so when it hits armor, though, that the casing is sort of ripped off, and the penetrator goes all the way through to great effect, like we saw in that intro video.
That's right.
Okay, cool. Wow. So tell us about the story of the development of this product. So you've been working on it, what, a year and a half now? I think I interviewed you early January of 19, I think.
Yes, that's when we released it, or when we told the world that we were going to start working on it. Man, it's been a rough ride, I tell you. We started that when I was living in Tennessee. Now I'm in Arizona, which has been like a good change. In the beginning, we were having a machine shop make our prototypes for us. Making those cores and jackets that we were testing, and it wasn't working well. Through the entire process, the real difficult thing has been how to get that core and jacket to stay together instead of just kind of shattering and exploding at the end of the barrel. And it wasn't working for so long. And, we came to Arizona. We started, I have a lathe over here. I don't know if you can see that. We talk a little bit about it in that video you shot for Disenthrall. But we make our own prototypes now. We make them very precise and very controllable, which has been really, really good for the speed and the accuracy of our development. And we got to this point probably like 4 months ago where we were just almost there. It was almost working. It had all the elements, and it just wasn't reliable. And we had done everything possible. We almost had nowhere else to go. And I started to think, oh, geez, like, what if I just wasted a year and a half of my life? I'm going to be a fraud. Maybe it wasn't actually ever possible to make a bullet like this. And, you know, in this last-ditch effort, we changed up the type of polymer that we use for, type of plastic we use for the jacket, and it worked. And it worked beautifully, and it worked better than we could have asked for. It fulfilled every criterion of our goals. And only 2 months after that, were we ready to shoot this video that you know, we've used to kind of relaunch the project. So we're there. It's happening. We're not done with it, but boy, we've been through hell. We've almost given up, but we finally made it work.
What is there other armor, even steel? Is there other armor-piercing pistol rounds, or are you really only competing with rifle calibers?
So there are some. There are some armor-piercing. Some armor-piercing ammunition has been developed by. I don't know what you would call them, by the military-industrial complex, essentially. Very shady companies whose only customers are like Blackwater and those kind of like mercenary outfits. That is better than this, but it is because they can use tungsten, right? And we can't. I mean, I could use tungsten. I can make something better, but I'd go to jail and you never hear from me again, and I wouldn't finish the project. So, yeah, something better exists, but honestly, nobody uses it. And again, this is while other armor-piercing 9mm ammunition exists, this has better performance than traditional armor-piercing ammunition. So, like, if you saw like the FBI or the DOJ, even the American military pull out their armor-piercing 9mm, it would not hold up to this.
Okay. Okay, well, let's start getting into some questions. Now, as I've gotten some questions before the show started, and I'll keep an eye on comments if you guys have any questions for him about this project or the product itself. If you want me to see your question, start the comment with question in all caps, and I'll see it as it goes by and add it to the list. So the first thing that people were curious about previous to the show were the ballistics. At range, and I've had multiple people curious about the ballistics at range. So it's a super light round. Have you tested it all at range, or have you only really done close-up stuff so far? Because people are concerned that it's so light it might not, it might drop off pretty quick or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely understandable. So far, we've just done close-range stuff. I mean, we're going to do long-range testing. Actually, the next step of our optimization that I can't wait to get to when we're done with this kind of publicity stage in the project with the video coming out, the next thing we're going to do is optimization to decrease drag, to make it as aerodynamic as possible. It is called the Dagny Dagger. It is made for close-up, for close range, and that is the only drawback we have with this being a jacket rather than a sawbow, is it does have a lot of drag. However, from traditional wisdom, without testing it, it should still be very, very fast, very effective, out to 50 yards, and still superior to a standard 9mm lead bullet at about 100 yards. I think that's about as good as you can ask from a pistol cartridge. But we know that it's going to have drag issues, but we are doing far more to optimize this than a standard millimeter has. For those of you, ballistics geeks out there who in the know, sorry to those of you who aren't, but we're going to put a boat tail on this. Boat tails are very rare on 9mm. We have tailored the shape of the bullet to operate well in the supersonic shock wave that will be created by a bullet moving this fast, which is larger than, what is it, like out of a carbine length barrel, we assume about 2,600 FPS. And we're tailoring it so that we
which
don't
is
have
crazy for a pistol round, which is crazy.
Yeah. And we've tailored the aerodynamics of that. So, that is to say, this is not going to be as aerodynamic as a rifle bullet, that is made, like in a caliber that's made for such crazy velocity and lightweight. But we're doing everything, and it's going to be, we're putting in aerodynamic considerations that will make this better at long range than, current 9mm bullets are designed for.
Okay. Next question. What are your plans for commercial off-the-shelf sabot or jacket material? I think this question is more along the lines of once you're done with the development, are you going to be selling the jackets and the cores separately, or are you only going to sell the ammunition, or what's kind of your end goal plan?
Yeah, so kind of it's still like pretty far out to know for sure, but our general model, tentatively, is to have a third-party machine shop produce the cores and jackets for us. We will in-house assemble the core and jacket into a cohesive projectile, and we will sell those projectiles. Now, we will sell them as loose projectiles for shooters who reload. So, you can buy the projectiles, load it into your own cases, as you might already do if you're a reloader. And then we will sell them also to to commercial loading companies, people who will take that projectile and put it into a case and make a cartridge of fixed ammunition out of it, ready to be shot into the gun. And then we'll, of course, allow them to use our branding and to market it as the Dagny Dagger. So, but we're trying to get there as soon as possible. We're trying to make it logistically simple. So we think that we'll predominantly just sell the projectile, and then at some future point, we may also produce the fixed assembled cartridges ourselves, and then we might also sell cores and jackets separately. Okay.
All right. And next question was about the Ghost Gunner. Can you tell us what your plans are around the Ghost Gunner?
Very excited about that.
Me too.
So this is, of course, everything's on the back burner in favor of Dagger development. But after we finish development of the cartridge, which should be just in a few months, several months, we really want to start on this. The idea is the Ghost Gunner lathe. And the Ghost Gunner is a mill in which you strap the workpiece to the table, and then you put your cutter in the spindle, and it cuts away at the material. A lathe, for those who don't know, you put your workpiece in the spindle, and it spins, and then your cutter cuts on that workpiece. So lathes make machine like round parts. Well, we're going to make an add-on for the Ghost Gunner that gives it lathe capability. So you can make round things with it, like bullets. So not only will you be able to make round bullets for yourself, you can turn premium solid copper bullets out of whatever you want. You can design your own. You can use, crowdsourced and open source, designs for special bullets made out of copper, brass, if you want to do it illegally, or steel, whatever. All that, you can do it. But not only that, we are specifically doing that, and we kind of came to this project so that you will be able to make the core of the Dagny Dagger at home. Now, you don't need the Ghost Gunner will then be the easiest way that you can make the Dagny Dagger at home. But, you don't need to. You could do it on like a drill press or something, or like a really cheap lathe. But we're going to tailor it for the Ghost Gunner. That's going to be kind of the turnkey solution. It's going to be real easy to do.
Cool. So yeah, it's a lot of open source products do that. They'll design the thing, they'll sell the thing themselves, but they'll also open source sort of all the plans and materials needed and how-to documentation on how to do it yourself. Without even talking to you, really, right? And that is your plan and goal for this, right? Yeah,
definitely. I can't wait for it. I mean, Yeah, that's the ultimate way to make sure that the government never takes it away, isn't it?
Exactly. Somebody was just talking to me. This is one of the this wasn't a question. This was a conversation that I had, was that, they're worried that you are going to get disappeared. And then what happens to this whole product? Well,
Yes,
I said, number one, you're not doing anything illegal that you could get disappeared for right now. And number two, your goal, and correct me if I'm wrong or confirm if I'm right, is, you're going to develop this process, you're going to develop this design, then you're going to release this publicly to the world for anyone to be able to do at home on their own. And much like the Ghost Gunner and now 3D printable firearms have sort of ended gun control, once you complete this and release your plans and designs in a big way, bullet control will also be dead, much in the same way as 3D printables and the Ghost Gunner killed gun control, right?
I hope so. I would hope so, and I think it's imminently achievable. We have a good plan to do that. But I want people to know this is like a big question I get, especially like for boomer fuds, like the typical gun community. They say like, well, this will never work. As soon as you come out with it, the government will just ban that. Okay, so like, this project is politically motivated. We're not just here to you're not like a normal corporation just trying to scrub as much profit as we can before we run away. We're deeply philosophically and politically motivated. So a lot of what we've done, I talk about legal strategy and that being the reason why I can't talk about some of the stuff, even though we want to open source it, even though I want to talk about it for legal strategy. But when people say that, I want people to know we're like 6 backup plans deep. Okay, so I almost, and I don't want this to happen, but there's some part of me that fantasizes about the government trying to ban it, because you know what that looks like. Like the ATF, this is a very specific list of banned materials. The ATF couldn't just decide, oh, this new stuff is banned. This would take an act of Congress to do, and you know what that looks like. You have teams of stupidly paid lawyers, team of 20 of them trying to write a new bill for this law to ban our stuff, and those are associated with the law office of a particular legislator, let's say in the House of Representatives. So then, after they spend their hundreds of man hours or whatever writing this bill and doing the research or whatever, that congressman puts it on the floor of the House, and they debate about it, and they spend all this time just arguing about stupid stuff about it, and they finally pass it, and then it goes to the Senate, and they talk about it forever also, and they debate it, and then they say, oh no, we don't like this version of it. They send it back to the House. The House passes revisions on it and amendments, and they send it back to the Senate, and they argue about it some more, and they finally pass it. It goes to the president's desk, who people think is the most powerful man in the world, right, to ban our stuff. He signs it. The ATF starts enforces it and tells us, oh, by the way, you can't make that anymore. And then a month later, we just roll out one of our backup plans. So,
oopsies. That one's plutonium, right? Broccoli says he's going to make his out of plutonium.
Yeah, but I mean, again, even if they do that, it's out there. It's open source. There's nothing you can do about it. I just read this book where he talked about this Homeland Security expert talked about how with the advent of ghost guns, supply side regulation, he calls it, on firearms is ineffective. So it's great. I mean, even the experts of our enemy, the cathedral or whatever, they themselves view this with some pessimism towards their frame of mind. And then I guess the other thing I'd have to say about it is they'll just make the plans illegal, or shut down the spreading of it on the internet, and that's a strategy we've seen, trying to control essentially on an intellectual property plane with ITAR and stuff. This is what happened to Defense Distributed and other players, where New Jersey will say, oh, you can't spread information about guns on the internet. Well, we don't believe in intellectual property. This is an open source project, so then why have I written a patent on this technology explaining very, very well to the government how to make it? Is because
You want to be able to
US
control
Patent and
them, keep them from making it, right?
Yeah, well, the United, but more than that, the government, the United States Patent and Trade Office, as a matter of course, publishes all patent applications. So we are having the federal government publish this information for us, fight the state with the state. So good luck, New Jersey, fighting the USPTO.
Nice.
So.
Let's see. Rob Power just said you can't print gunpowder. The 3D printable guns are still not here. Guess what they're working on right now? Friendo. They're working on plans to be able to create. This is deterrence dispensed. They have people working on a way to make your own gunpowder using off the shelf, easy to acquire materials. This movement of self defense in a distributed open source way. Really, really powerful. I think we have enough people in our comments that we can actually do a GoFundMe to get you some WD-40 for your chair. That was another couple comments.
Oh, sorry.
Let's see. No. It was fine. It was just a joke. It was a joke. That's the GoFundMe. Okay.
There we go.
It's all good, man. It's all good. All right. So another question. How much money? That was the next thing. Like, the question was, how much money do you need to make before you release it publicly? But I don't think that's your criteria. What is your end goal that will say, okay, I'm done. Now we're going to publish this?
Man, it's really hard. I'll say now, and this might not be kind of the thing to say when you're trying to raise some money, but we are going to do this. You know, I'm convicted. If we get no more dollars, it'll still happen, and I'm going to make sure it happens, and the other contributors to Atlas Arms are going to make sure that it happens. But, you know, we want to open source this. We don't want to control, you know, we don't want to monopolize it. And of course, that's the first thing that, okay, the first question that an investor in the firearms space asks is, so how are you going to get a government contract for this? And the answer to that, to their disappointment, is we don't want it. And the second question they ask is, you know, what's covered under your patent, right? Like, what, you know, how do we make sure that only we are able to sell this? And then they'd be disappointed to know that, like, we're going to open source it and license it to other people, and I don't want to restrict access. That would make it very difficult for us to find, like, to follow the typical road to development. That's why, in part, we're nonprofit. And we've raised quite a bit of money so far. I think you can see that if you go to our crowdfunding page on gundynamics.com. But it's taken a lot more money up to this point. I don't want to say too much about it, but I personally have done everything that I can to fund this project when we haven't had enough resources. Quite frankly, I don't have any more to give. And, you know, development is nearly complete. We're going to, we can develop this cartridge very easily without spending, you know, any more significant funds. But we still need to meet the rest of our $30,000 campaign goal in order to fund, you know, the Ghost Gunner lathe and to figure out how to 3D print jackets and design a way for this to be mass manufactured. Because it's a new design, it needs to be manufactured differently than other bullets, and we got to design that, and that's going to take a lot of money. So kind of the answer to, like, how much money do you need? Well, you know, we want to fill that $30,000. If we fill that, then we can move fast and we can finally tell people, okay, this is our timeline. This is when we expect to have it done. Because right now people are, you know, just as they do, and it makes sense. They say, when are you going to have this available? When's it going to be done? When's it going to be open sourced? Well, it'll be, you know, right now we have to take the cheapest, slowest, most conservative approach in our development because we don't have the funds.
Yeah, I wonder if you could pre-sell some of the actual rounds. I don't know if that would be... So it's a gray area because, again, we'll get into this. You know, this project is 100 times more complicated than it should be because of all the stupid regulation of firearms. We don't have a license to sell ammunition yet.
so we can't sell pre-orders.
Oh, I see.
What we
Okay.
do, yeah, and what we do have, we're not selling pre-orders, but as a donation favor to people who donate $100 or more to our crowdfunding campaign, we're going to produce kind of an early advanced access batch of the daggers when we finish development, when we're able to, and our donors of $100 or more will receive a box of this advanced access ammo. So
I didn't
we
know
do
about
have
that. You will have $100 for me at the moment the show is over. Is that happening right now?
Yeah, it's happening. You can donate Bitcoin. Just send us an email, make it telling us like I want the donation favors. This was the address I sent it from, or the transaction ID, and this is the amount of Bitcoin I sent. So you can donate through Bitcoin that way. I'm sure a lot of your audience is interested in doing that. And frankly, we prefer Bitcoin as much as possible, which is another issue we could talk about. But again, USD is easier, and that's on our crowdfunding site. Over at gundynamics.com.
Okay.
So.
All right. Next question, and then we have the questions from chat. So next question is, what are your thoughts on upscaling? But in something like 10 millimeter for higher velocity? Have you tried 45?
Other calibers.
Other calibers. Yep.
Yeah. So 9 millimeter first, because it's a pretty good cartridge. It's pretty standard, ubiquitous. I mean, it is the standard, really. We also, probably after this, because it'll use the same bullet, we'll probably do a 357 SIG load, develop a 357 SIG load, because the bullet's already done. And then, I really look forward to 10 millimeter and 40 Smith & Wesson. As far as pistols go in rifle calibers, we're looking at 5.56, 308, 300 blackout. I guess I should say I'm not really looking for kind of more like bolt action rifles or higher powered rifles, because the AP ammo ban only applies to ammunition that can be used in a handgun. So the ATF takes that to say, if there is a handgun produced in a certain caliber, then it's banned. But like 50 BMG, you can buy AP ammo for that because there's no handgun in 50 BMG. So we don't really need to cover those. You can get conventional AP ammo for them.
Okay. All right.
And then I should say also, I don't think there's a lot of 45 AARP fans in this chat. We don't want to make that. We think it's a terribly obsolete cartridge. It's not fast. It's not good for armor piercing. Even if we make the Dagny Dagger in it, it just can't perform as well nearly as the 9mm can. But we've had a lot of interest in it. So if you are interested in seeing 45 ACP, send us an email, make your case. So we're trying.
How easy will it be to, like, once you have the 9 complete? How easy would it be for you to convert to all the different calibers? Or is it like starting over, or is it just like copy pasting and scaling?
It's not starting over because, again, that critical piece of the project that we were missing for like a year and a half, we won't have to figure that out again. But there'll be other complexities. I would imagine that it would probably take us, I don't know, I'm going to tentatively say like 6 months and, I don't know, maybe $5,000 to develop each successive cartridge.
And I don't think you're going to have any problems with money once you actually start selling ammo. I think you're going to be the most popular self-defense round on the planet. And I hope that you give your friends first call on the inventory. That's all I'm saying.
You're connected, man. You don't have to worry.
That's right. All right, next question. This is from chat. Does Austin recommend... Oh, this is from Broccoli. Does Austin recommend coating the foreskin and tip with water or silicone-based lubricant? Ha ha. Somebody asked, you said he watched Anarchast for a little while. What happened to Jeff? I'm Patrick Smith. Jeff has given the show to me. He stepped down. He didn't want to do interviews anymore, and I was honored to take over the show for him. I think I need to No one knows anything about me. They always just see me interviewing other people. Nobody on this. Maybe I need to have somebody like interview me on Anarchast. Suggestions in chat who should interview me so that people can know who I am. Either that, or you can go sub over on Disenthrall, which has been my channel for years. So
you need to have Jeff come back just to interview you and just pass the torch officially or something.
I asked him, and he said in no uncertain terms, Patrick, I never want to interview another person again, and I never want to be interviewed by another person again. He is done. I tried, because I was like, well, that makes perfect sense. But anyway, all right. Let's see. Oh, interesting question on voting for you, Austin. Is Austin Jones planning on voting in this 2020 election? If so, who would you vote for? Would he consider voting for Libertarian Party Jorgensen for president?
No, I don't vote. I think unlike some anarchists, I don't think there's anything wrong with voting. I just don't think it's like very effective. I mean, not really worth the waste of time. And again, I know this is going to be controversial. I do occasionally vote in like primaries when I want to see a particular voice get, some more recognition. I do have favored candidates to win. There are certain politicians I would rather see in office than others, but I largely don't think it makes much of a difference. So, yeah, that's it.
Ron Labe says you could sell 1 million rounds of this at $5 a round in 15 minutes today. I think that is not even an exaggeration.
Dude, like the worst mistake I ever made was not having this ready for COVID/riot days. Oh man, could we sell this? We could sell it for $10 a round as fast as we could produce it. But we'll be ready. We'll be ready next pandemic, leftist riot, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So that is kind of the end of the questions that I have for you. I just want to kind of give a final thought from me that I'm not sure everybody is really aware of how this will specifically change the world permanently. Just like the invention of the gun changed the world permanently and the future and everyone in it permanently, then 3D printing changed it again permanently because it made it much more difficult, if not impossible, to control firearms. The ultimate equalizer changed the world permanently. This is also changing the world permanently by releasing... Look, if he's just making a new bullet to sell and have as his own product to sell privately, then this might not really be a thing. But because he's releasing the designs publicly, it becomes an irrevocable, unreversible, uncensorable event that takes place in human history that can't be undone, where people at home can create their own armor-piercing ammunition. And look, he's got, and Austin, you can disagree with me or correct me if you think I'm wrong or missed something, but Austin has his own special alloy that we can't know about yet for legal reasons. That's all good. And he's got his polymer for the foreskin. That's all good. But look, when he releases this thing, just because steel cores are illegal doesn't mean you can't go to Home Depot and get some steel rod and mill it yourself using the design and the process that Austin is about to release publicly. So even if you don't have access to his fancy alloy and his fancy foreskin polymer, it doesn't matter. It's world changing because steel exists everywhere. And if you need to be able to defend yourself in Minecraft, you will have the ability to do so from this point until the end of time because of the work that this guy's doing. And I didn't know you were still raising money, but now that I know, I'm like, guys, go find this guy, go support him. And yeah, I guess that's kind of a good place to sort of start wrapping up. Why don't you tell us where you need people to go to follow you, to follow your project? Where can people go to donate, to support, to do that, like you said, $100 sort of donation? Tell us about, where people can go. Oh no! Oh no! Hopefully he reconnects. I think we lost him. Let me check here. Yep, we lost him. He disconnected. Hopefully he'll refresh and come on back. All right, we'll hang out together, and he'll probably refresh and reconnect here in a second. Yeah, great question, guys, and good one on the plutonium broccoli. That was good. That definitely made me laugh. Great questions, too. Voting, we had a great voting discussion over on Disenthrall multiple times with multiple people. You should go check out that channel. Disenthrall is Disenthrall. Hopefully, Austin will reconnect here shortly. Let me just make sure here. Give me 1 second, guys. I guess last call for question. Now that we're waiting, we have some more time. If you guys want to submit some more questions, I'll hit it. Maybe he's lost internet at his house or power or something. I don't know. We might have lost him permanently. Control Pew in the chat. Good to see you, Control Pew. You have a lot of followers on Twitter with the 3D printing gun fan club. Good to see you. Let's see. Gwyneth Isaac says, even if they ban everything out there, you can be at the point in your mind where a piece of string or a plastic bag is a deadly weapon. What are they going to do? Ban plastic bags and pieces of string? Yeah, a lot. That's why I wanted to point it out, man. Like, just because steel has been illegal federally doesn't mean that if you are in a pinch and you need to be able to defend yourself from evil men, the tech that he's developing and designs that he's going to be releasing are going to enable people to be able to do that in situations where they otherwise wouldn't, or where the ammo that they have would not be effective. Control P says they have donation buttons for BTC and cash on their homepage. I'm going to try and convince him to add Monero to that list. UF has a question. How did I meet and get to know Austin? Oh, man. So this was like beginning of 2019. I think he was living in a state where, I don't know if any of you know Sherry Voluntary, who's another anarchist that I don't think has been on Anarchast yet, who will probably be invited to be on the show soon. But I think she was friends with him because they lived in the same area and they hung out in the same voluntarist circles. And she told me about what he was doing, and I brought him on immediately onto the Disenthrall channel to talk to him about what he's working on. So that is how I got to know him. And then, you know, they had the big breakthrough a couple months back, and, you know, we were one of the first people to find out, and he needed that video made that's, you know, currently blowing up on the internet. So we drove over to, I always forget the name of his state, Arizona, Flagstaff. It's beautiful there, man. It's beautiful in Texas right now. I've got the windows open in the house. You could probably hear the crickets soon. How does voting for the LP increase individual rights? I think you guys are having a conversation amongst yourself. That's fine. We can get into that maybe another time. I'm happy to talk about voting. If you want to have conversations about voting and the Libertarian Party, you're welcome to hit me up, and we can even bring you on the Disenthrall channel and talk through it anytime. I'm always looking for a good conversation. Okay, I'm going to assume that he's had some kind of permanent failure, and so we will just go ahead. Let me check on him 1 second. Last check. Okay, well, I'm going to assume that we've lost him. If you're watching this video later, check the description in the top comment. I will pin a comment with links. Control Pew, do you have a link to his website? Can you send us the link to his website in chat, and I'll make sure that that gets put in the description and the comments. Like, we got to one of the most important parts of the show where I was going to have him pimp his link so people could go find him, and that's when we lost him. So if you guys can share his links in the comments, I'll make sure that that gets pinned and added to the description. And in fact, I'm not leaving here until I know where to go send my $100, because I'm getting that first box of ammo. I guaranteed. I think it might not be legal in Texas. I'm not sure. I'll have to check that. Control Pew, do you have that? Does anybody have his link? Let me see if I can find it. I'm not seeing the link come through. Maybe I'm not. Oh, Atlas Arms. Well, okay. Just Google Atlas Arms. You'll find the website. That is his project. And guys, thanks for watching. I'm not seeing the links in my scroll. I'll find them in the chat replay and make sure that they get added to description. It's not legal in Texas. Well,
Hey, I'm back.
hey, he's back.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Well, he had some good chats with the comments. We're good. So we were just
Okay,
trying to
great.
I was just trying to have people dig up the links because I was going to ask you for them and then we lost you. So you're back now. What was the last thing I asked you? Oh yeah. So we were basically, I was talking about how you're permanently changing the world and how people are going to be able to do this from here on out with any material they need to. And then I was going to basically say, like, why don't you close out the show by telling us sort of what your timeline is, what you're expecting until you're ready to start releasing things, and then tell us where to send everybody to go donate and support you.
Yeah, this is all very tied together. As I mentioned, it is difficult to tell a timeline because we are funded by charitable giving. So you can go to gundynamics.com. That's where you can donate USD and see our progress bar. We need that $30,000. We do need your donation. I don't like to ask people for stuff, but that's just the reality of this project and what it takes to give it away to the commons. And that's what we want to do. And the faster we get that money, the more money we have, the faster we can go, and the better answer that I can give about the timeline. Until then, the best thing I could say is we're working day and night. I'm working really, really hard on this, and so are some of the other contributors. We're doing it as fast as we can, and I expect us to be done developing the cartridge itself in early 2021, hopefully earlier if the weather behaves here in northern Arizona with the snow and everything. Yes. And then, of course, after that, we will have to develop the tools and methods for people to make it at home. We will have to develop the wherewithal to mass manufacture it. So I think realistically, and to try to give ourselves as much time as possible, I think we're looking at probably the beginning of 2022 before we can start commercial manufacture. It is my highest hope that we can open source it before then, in 2021, towards the end, and it is my highest hope that we can get those advanced access ammo boxes to our donors before the end of 2021. But yeah, that's it. If you want it to happen faster, I hate to say it, but you got to donate, and you will be rewarded for that. We want to honor our friends and help. And then, of course, you can donate Bitcoin at atlasarms.org/BTC, I think is the address, but you can get there from our homepage. Both BTC Pay and Samurai Wallet Payname options for those who want really high security.
Do you have Monero options?
We don't. I'm open to it. Not a lot of demand has been there, but if we see some demand, then we can justify taking the time to set that up.
Okay. All right. So go ahead.
Oh no, that's as far as I was going to say about the crowdfunding stuff.
Okay, so the URLs that are important are gundynamics.com. Thanks UF in the chat for providing those, Ron Lob. atlasarms.org/BTC. Atlasarms.org is your website. So is there anything else that people need to know? Or
I think two things. If you kind of want to look at the more, passively watch us, it's good to follow us on Twitter, Atlas_arms_org. But, you can just search Atlas Arms or Dagger and you'll find us. And then the other thing is, we're not some hoity-toity, like government-backed corporation or whatever. I'm available. I'm open. Email the company at Dagny at atlasarms.org. or me at austin@atlasarms.org. If you got any questions, I'm here for you. We're open.
All right.
That's all I got.
I'm not sure if this is a joke. I hope it's not. Ron Labe. I hope I'm not mispronouncing. I'm definitely mispronouncing your last name. Ron says, if he donates 18 grand, what would that do to your timeline? So I guess a better question would be, if you got all the funding you needed, what would the timeline look like?
If we got that much funding, I think that we could be done with the development of like that.
And these are not promises, ladies and gentlemen. This is just
not
estimates.
promises.
Yeah.
No, but even on our website, if we finished out our funding needs, I believe that we would be ready. I think we would have developed the manufacturing and the DIY stuff and all that. I think we'd have it done in just 6 months. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, give this man some money.
Yeah, well, again, that's no promise, but I will say, if we got that much money, we would skyrocket in terms of our rate of development. So,
all right, awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out in the comments. Great questions from everybody all around. Austin, thank you for joining us on your first time on Anarchast. Hopefully, first of many, because as soon as you have developments or updates or new information, you will have an open door to come back on and tell us about it. Thanks for hanging out today.
Great. Look, it was good to talk to you, Patrick. Always a fun time with you, and look forward to talking to you again.
Man, and I look forward to my next trip to Flagstaff to see the goodies. Oh, God, last thing I'll say before I end the stream, you need to go watch the documentary over on Disenthrall. When we were at your house, you pulled out a 3D printed belt-fed magazine for a pistol.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Look, we're not just a Dagger. I mean, that's a point too. It's like we got great stuff planned in the future. So,
Yeah. All right, guys. With that, we will end the stream. Thanks for hanging out. It's been a pleasure. I will catch you next time.